While some of us may have been too young during the 1990s and early 2000s to remember when people on the right were worried that if we normalize the LGBTQRSTUV movement, that it would one day lead to the normalization of pedophilia. Now, of course, those people were roundly mocked. They were just absolutely excoriated in the media and in the public sphere. Well, here we are in 2020. And we have California legislature softens sex offender registry requirements for sodomy with minors. Yes, that is right. And this face you're looking at right now is one Scott Weiner, a Democrat a California senator. And this is the second day in a row that Scott Weiner has come up on one of my episodes. And if you recall my episode from yesterday, Scott Weiner is the one who is pushing the bill to allow convicts to choose their gender, to choose their sex before sentencing, so that if they want to go to a female prison, they can go to a female prison. He is also the same state senator that pushed for the passage of a bill that decriminalized knowingly transferring HIV from one person to another. This man is an insipid degradation of our culture, and he is exactly what we feared. He is the personification of everything that the right feared as the push for the normalization of the LGBTQ movement came into effect. He is the living example of everything we were worried about happening. And just look at that man's face. I don't know what it is with these creepy pedophiles, but they all seem to have this same face. It's that very thin, narrow face that comes down like this. There's no jawline. You know, it seems like the pedophiles all either have that same shaped face or they're like fat, disgusting, balding slobs. They're one or the other. It seems like every single time. Unless you're like the Jeffrey Epstein pedophile or whatever. But you tend to see this quite frequently, and I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm just going off the cuff here, but I seem to see that same damn face with a lot of these pedophiles and that kind of thing. So we have this from the Daily Caller. Oh, and by the way, before I get going, just so you notice, I'm not wearing a Black Lives Matter shirt. I'm wearing a Black Lies Matter shirt. That's the name of a 3-part series I did on my Revved Up show. And I am going to start selling this shirt, so I'm going to put a link into the description. So if you guys are interested in getting yourself a Black Lives Matter shirt to correct the narrative, because we do not stand with the lies that are told to the black community that have been inciting all of this violence and all of the Marxism in the Black Lives Matter movement. So this is just a little something to jab at all your lefty friends. So if you want to pick one up, go check it out in the link in the description. So this is from the Daily Caller here. The California legislature passed a law late Monday relaxing sex offender registry requirements for sodomy and other acts with minors in an effort to end discrimination against LGBTQ young people on the sex offender registry, according to the bill's sponsor, which is this creepy motherfucker right here. Democratic State Senator Scott Weiner, a gay politician who represents San Francisco, but of course, first introduced SB 145 in January 2019. The bill would exempt from mandatory registration under the act a person convicted of certain offenses involving minors if the person is not more than 10 years older than the minor and if that offense is the only one requiring the person to register, according to the text of the legislation. I think any time that an adult is engaged in sexual activity with a minor, it should require registration under the law. That's what it is. That's what it is. Under the new bill, which has not been signed into law by Governor Gavin Newsom, who I'm sure is going to sign it, adults less than 10 years older than the minor who are convicted of having anal or oral sex with that minor would not automatically be added to the sex offender registry, the San Francisco Chronicle reported. So this essentially gives leeway for somebody who is, say, 23 to engage in very disgusting acts with a 13-year-old and not be listed as a sex offender afterwards. That is disgusting. That is disturbing. Under the new bill, which is... okay, I already read that part. California law requires that adults must register as sex offenders if they are convicted of having anal or oral sex with a minor, though a judge may decide whether to place an adult male not more than 10 years older than the minor on the sex registry if he has vaginal intercourse with a teenage girl, according to the Chronicle. Well, that's already a degradation of what the law should be. 10 years? I mean, I can understand if it's something where it's like a 19-year-old and a 17-year-old, you know, something where they were like in high school at the same time, but 10 years. That is disgusting. I mean, California is turning into Sodom and Gomorrah. Literally, quite literally. In fact, Sodom, yeah, I don't need to get into all that. So this is from Senator Scott Weiner here. Expedites approval of sustainable transportation project. Okay, so he's saying what this bill does. So list number 5 on this bill, SB 288. Okay, no, this is another one. I have no idea I have no idea why that's included. Okay, so 6. SB 145 ends discrimination against LGBTQ young people on the sex offender registry. Currently, these youth are forced onto the sex registry for consensual sex, even if a judge doesn't think it's appropriate, in situations where straight youth are not. First of all, like I said, first of all, I think this guy's got it completely backwards. In these cases where you have an adult and a minor, it is not the youth that is placed on the sex offender registry. It is the adult. So this person is absolutely lying when he's saying that this is to protect the youth from being put on the registry, because it is the adult that goes on the registry. So this is him trying to protect adults who diddle little kids. It's absolutely disgusting. Absolutely. I mean, just the guy just looks like a creeper. The guy looks disgusting. That gaunt, jawless face. Ugh. In 2015, the California Supreme Court argued that vaginal intercourse can lead to pregnancy and that requiring a father to register as a sex offender may inhibit his ability to support a child and find a job through social stigmatization, according to the Chronicle. You know, no, just, you know, I mean, that might be a valid point, and that not valid point, but it might be true that it's going to prevent the father from being able to support the child, but that doesn't mean that the person should be getting off scot-free or should not be required to register so that other people in the neighborhood don't know who they're living next to. You know, that should not mitigate somebody being added to the registry. Very, very, very disturbing. And this is the whole thing about that we see with leftist culture is they always place the protection upon the few who don't really need it at the cost of the majority. They always support one side, and it is always the side that is far lower in number, far fewer in number. They always protect the minority at the cost of the majority. That is not the way things are supposed to run, and that is exactly why Donald Trump won in 2016, and it's why he's likely going to landslide again here in 2020. So SB 145 passed the California Assembly by a bare minimum vote of 41 to 18 before passing 23 to 10 in the state Senate, the Chronicle reported, though some lawmakers raised concern that the bill allows for the mistreatment of others. It absolutely does. These people will not be worried about having to be on the sex offender registry so long as, you know, they're within 10 years, which, like I said, is a very wide age difference. That is really, really, really gross. There's no reason. I mean, even as somebody, an adult, I don't even really find myself attracted to women that are 10 years my junior, for the most part, because they're just immature. In fact, I've often dated women that were a couple years older than me, just because I tend to get along with them better, and that's a big part of it. So it's really gross when you have even adults that date that far younger. I mean, I guess once you start getting like, you know, 50, 56 and 46, whatever, you know, that's not a thing. But when you're talking about kids, when you're talking about people that are under 18, these people are still maturing mentally, developmentally. Nobody more than 10 years older of anybody who is in their teens should be going after that person. Um. So yeah, that's just. I mean, this is the downfall of everything, and like I said, we were absolutely castigated for being worried that this whole LGBTQ thing is going to lead to the normalization of pedophilia. And where is this all coming from? It is coming from the LGBTQ. It is coming from that group. We now have, they're called MAPs. What is it? Minor attracted persons. They even have to give a clinical name to pedophiles. They even have to give this whitewashed, politically correct, academic clinical name to kitty diddlers, to chesters. We saw this coming. It is about time that, there's that whole list of logical fallacies, and one of the logical fallacies is the fallacy of the slippery slope. It is about time that that gets removed from the list of logical fallacies, because at this point, the slippery slope is an absolutely true thing, and it's just spotting the trend from a mile away. Especially when it comes to the left. Anybody who is on the left, they never know when to stop. It's called progressivism because it just it completely progresses in whatever direction they're pointing. So if it's pointing towards LGBTQ and a sort of sexual deviance, alternative sexuality lifestyle, it's going to continue progressing that way until it just reaches, there is no end. There is no end. So they're talking right now about the lawmakers that raise concerns about the mistreatment of minors, which it shouldn't be a concern. It should be an alarm, a 5-alarm fire, whatever you call it, going off in their heads. I cannot, in my mind, as a mother, understand how sex between a 24-year-old and a 14-year-old could ever be consensual, how it could not be a registerable offense. Democratic California State Rep Lorena Gonzalez said, according to the Chronicle. Wow. A Democrat actually stood against this. Hey, Lorena Gonzalez, if you start to realize that your party has gone way off the deep end, which they already have, and if you start looking around and saying, I don't recognize this place anymore, come talk to us Republicans. We would love to sit down and have a conversation with you and see if there's any common ground that we can find. Now, I don't actually know anything about the track record of Lorena Gonzalez. So maybe she is super far left in many other ways. I could be, but as somebody on the right, I am always willing to have conversations with my political opponents to see if I can reach them. But most of the time, what we're finding is people on the left don't want to have that conversation because they are terrified to death that we might chip away holes into their ideology. So I don't know anything about Lorena Gonzalez. I don't know what other legislation she has supported or what her positions are. But Lorena, come talk to us, and we'll see if maybe there's a party switch in the card. So I don't know. We should never give up the idea that children should be in no way. We should never give up on this idea that children should be in no way subject to a predator. Can't argue with Lorena Gonzalez there. No. They should never be in the way of a predator. Though minors cannot legally consent to sex in California, Weiner's bill would allow a judge to decide whether or not to place an adult on the sex offender registry if a teenager between the ages of 14 and... Okay, so I guess it's 14 is the low end. But even still, 14, still disgusting. Still disgusting. 14 and 17 had sex with that adult. And the fact that it's not this way for straight people, that straight people because of that whole thing that they said before about the potential of pregnancy, that's not an excuse to keep somebody off the registry. Like, I understand the point that it would make things difficult for the mother not having somebody that can provide an income, but I have very little faith that somebody who is 24 sleeping with a 14-year-old that impregnates them is really going to be around to pay the bills, or that they're the type of person that even holds a job down. I don't really have much faith that these types of people, these predators, are really out there that would want to raise that child. They're there to be a predator, not a father. And they shouldn't be a father anyways. Yeah, actually, what the fuck was I thinking? Anybody who impregnates an underage girl shouldn't even have contact with the damn child. How the hell did it take me this long into the video for that to click? Jesus. Rag me in the comment section for that, please. Yeah, they shouldn't even be around their child, to be honest. SB 145 ends discrimination against LGBTQ young people. Again, he is lying. He is saying it ends the discrimination against LGBTQ young people, youth, when it is the adults that go on the registry. It's the adults in the situation that he's protecting. He is trying to codify into law the ability for these young LGBTQ people to engage in sexual activity with adults, and for adults to be comfortable to do that with them, which is disgusting. I'm telling you, end of days right here. This is end of days stuff. Currently, these youth are forced onto the sexual the registry for consensual sex. No, they're not. The adults are. Even if a child doesn't think it's or even if a judge doesn't think it's appropriate. Well, if a judge doesn't think it's appropriate, they should not be a judge because they are not upholding the law. In situations where straight youth are not, the discrimination destroys lives. This is not an issue of discrimination. This is an issue of protecting children. Again, the priorities of the left are just absolutely ass backwards. The priority should not be about some gay pedophile feeling discriminated against. It should be about protecting the child from that gay pedophile. Weiner did not immediately respond to a request for comment from the Daily Caller News Foundation. Of course he didn't, because these people never want to own up. Although he seems to speak pretty openly about it, so he probably just knows that it's the Daily Caller. It's I think Tucker Carlson is one of the founders of the Daily Caller, so he's not going to fess up to Tucker Carlson. But I mean, just look at that. Look at that face. He looks like a creeper. You just see it in the eyes. You see it in the teeth. You see that jawline. I don't know what it is about creeper pedophiles and that jawline. They all have that same shape. Ugh. I don't know. Anyways, guys, again, I know this is a hard video to like, but if you like the fact that I'm calling it out, please go ahead and hit the like button. Also, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you are interested in picking up a Black Lives Matter shirt, again, it is not Black Lives, it is Black Lies. Correcting the narrative. There is a link to Teespring in the bottom there. I'm going to start creating some more designs. I have a couple up. I've had it up for a little bit, but I haven't really pushed it yet. But I figure, hey, since it's pertinent, if you're going out to counter protest, wear one of these, and the double takes would at least be fun. So anyways, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Parler at Ram Thorburn. Also, if you are interested in contributing to the channel, there are links to my Subscribe Star, Patreon, and PayPal down in the description below. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.